welcome to 15 minutes of reading. I'm going to be reading from Paradise Lost. Satan has escaped hell and has come to heaven and has disguised himself as a junior cherub to deceive this angel Uriel into telling him where mankind is, where the Garden of Eden is. So Uriel is answering his question. Fair angel, thy desire, which tends to know the works of God, thereby to glorify the great workmaster, leads to no excess that reaches blame, but rather permits praise the more it seems excess, that led thee hither from thy imperial mansion thus alone, to witness with thine eyes what some perhaps, contented with report, hear only in heaven. For wonderful indeed are all his works, pleasant to know, and worthiest to be all had in remembrance always with delight. But what created mind can comprehend their number, or the wisdom infinite that brought them forth, but hid their causes deep? I saw when, at his word, the formless mass, this world's material mold, came to a heap. Confusion heard his voice, and wild uproar stood vast infinitude confined, till, at his second bidding, darkness fled, light shone, and order from disorder sprung. Swift to their several quarters hasted then the cumbrous elements, earth, flood, air, fire, and this ethereal quintessence of heaven flew upward, spirited with various forms, that rolled orbicular, and turned to stars numberless as thou seest, and how they move. Each had his place appointed, each his course, the rest in circuit walls this universe. Look downward on that globe, whose hither side with light from hence though but reflected shines. That place is earth, the seat of man, that light his day, which else, as the other hemisphere, night would invade. But there the neighboring moon, so called that opposite fair star her aid, timely interposes, and, her monthly round still ending, still renewing, through mid-heaven with borrowed light her countenance triform hence fills and empties, to enlighten the earth, and in her pale dominion checks the night. That spot to which I point is paradise, Adam's abode, those lofty shades his bower. Thy way thou canst not miss, me mine requires. Thus said, he returned, and Satan, bowing low, as to superior spirits is wont in heaven, where honor due and reverence none neglects, took leave, and toward the coast of earth beneath, down from the ecliptic, sped with hoped success, throws his steep flight in many an airy wheel, nor stayed till on Niphate's top he lights. And that's the end of the third book. This is the fourth book. The argument. Satan now in prospect of Eden, and nigh the place where he must now attempt the bold enterprise which he undertook alone against God and man, falls into many doubts with himself, and many passions, fear, envy, and despair, but at length confirms himself in evil, journeys on to paradise, whose outward prospect and situation is described, overleaps the bounds, sits in the shape of the cormorant on the tree of life, as highest in the garden, to look about him. The garden described, Satan's first sight of Adam and Eve, his wonder at their excellent form and happy state, but with resolution to work their fall, overhears their discourse. Thence gathers that the tree of knowledge was forbidden them to eat of under penalty of death, and thereon intends to found his temptation by seducing them to transgress, then leaves them a while to know further of their state by some other means. Meanwhile, Uriel, descending on a sunbeam, warns Gabriel, who had in charge the gate of paradise, that some evil spirit had escaped the deep, and passed at noon by his sphere in the shape of a good angel down to paradise, discovered after by his furious gestures in the mount. Gabriel promises to find him ere morning. Night coming on, Adam and Eve discourse of going to their rest, their bower described, their evening worship. Gabriel, drawing forth his bands of night watch to walk the rounds of paradise, appoints 2 strong angels to Adam's bower, lest the evil spirit should be there doing some harm to Adam or Eve sleeping. There they find him at the ear of Eve, tempting her in a dream, and bring him, though unwilling, to Gabriel, by whom questioned he scornfully answers, prepares resistance, but hindered by a sign from heaven, flies out of paradise. And I find it very interesting that Milton, he gives, authors when they write a great work, they often, some of them will make an outline of where their work is going, sort of a brief synopsis, and Milton just includes his outline in his finished work. It's just very entertaining, very interesting. What time is it? Oh, I got time. So we'll read a page or more. Whew. Oh, for that warning voice, which he who saw the apocalypse heard cry in heaven aloud, then when the dragon, put to second rout, came furious down to be revenged on men, woe to the inhabitants on earth. That now well time was, Our first parents had been warned the coming of their secret foe, and happily so scaped his mortal snare. For now Satan, now first inflamed with rage, came down, the tempter, ere the accuser of mankind, to wreak on innocent frail man his loss of that first battle and his flight to hell. Yet not rejoicing in his speed, though bold, far off, and fearless, nor with cause to boast, begins his dire attempt, which nigh the birth, now rowling, boils in his tumultuous breast, and like a devilish engine back recoils upon himself. I wonder, Milton uses the word engine, and I wonder what he means by that. What were engines before we have them now? Just mechanisms, mechanical means? I'm not sure. I mean, I understand what he's saying, but I wonder what image that brought to mind to these early, 16th century, 17th century readers? 17th century readers. Horror and doubt distract his troubled thoughts, and from the bottom stir the hell within him. For within him hell he brings, and round about him, nor from hell one step no more than from himself can fly by change of place. That's a very interesting line. Because Satan says earlier in the book, he says that the location doesn't matter, but heaven and hell, you can make a hell of heaven or a heaven of hell yourself, which is seems like he has done, and now he brings hell with him, and he cannot escape it himself because he bears it within himself. That should be a lesson to all of us. Now conscience wakes despair that slumbered, wakes the bitter memory of what he was, what is, and what must be worse. Of worse deeds, worse sufferings must ensue. Sometimes toward Eden, which now in his view lay pleasant, his grieved look he fixes sad. Sometimes toward heaven, and the full blazing sun, which now sat high in his meridian tower. Then much revolving, thus in sighs began. O thou that, with surpassing glory crowned, look'st from thy sole dominion like the god of this new world, at whose sight all the stars hide their diminished heads. To thee I call, but with no friendly voice, and add thy name, O sun, to tell thee how I hate thy beams, that bring to my remembrance from what state I fell, how glorious once above thy sphere, till pride and worse ambition threw me down, warring in heaven against heaven's matchless king. Ah, wherefore? He deserved no such return from me, whom he created, what I was, in that bright eminence, and with his good upbraided none. Nor was his service hard. What could be less than to afford him praise, the easiest recompense, and pay him thanks? How do? Yet all his good proved ill in me, and wrought but malice. Lifted up so high, I stained subjection, and thought one step higher would set me highest, and in a moment quit the debt immense of endless gratitude, so burthensome, still paying, still to owe, forgetful what from him I still received, and understood not that a grateful mind, by owing, owes not, but still pays, at once indebted and discharged. What burden then? Oh, had his powerful destiny ordained me some inferior angel, I had stood then happy, no unbounded hope had raised ambition. Yet why not? Some other power as great might have aspired, and me, though mean, drawn to his part. But other powers as great fell not, but stand unshaken, from within or from without, to all temptations armed. Hadst thou the same free will and power to stand? Thou hadst. Whom hast thou then, or what, to accuse but heaven's free love dealt equally to all? Be then his love accursed, since love or hate to me alike it deals eternal woe. Nay, cursed be thou, since against his thy will chose freely. What it now so justly rues, me miserable. Which way shall I fly? Infinite wrath and infinite despair. Which way I fly is hell. Myself am hell, and in the lowest deep, a lower deep still threatening to devour me opens wide, to which the hell I suffer seems a heaven. Oh, then at last relent! Is there no place left for repentance, none for pardon left, none left but by submission, and that word disdain forbids me, and my dread of shame, among the spirits beneath whom I seduced with other promises and other vaunts than to submit, boasting I could subdue the omnipotent. Ay me, they little know how dearly I abide that boast so vain, under what torments inwardly I groan, while they adore me on the throne of hell, with diadem and scepter high advanced, the lower still I fall, only supreme in misery, such joy ambition finds. But say I could repent, and could obtain, by the act of grace my former state, how soon would height recall high thoughts, how soon unsay what feigned submission swore? Ease would recant vows made in pain as violent and void, for never can true reconcilement grow where wounds of deadly hate have pierced so deep, which would but lead me to a worse relapse and heavier fall. So should I purchase dear short intermission, bought with double smart. This knows my punisher, therefore as far from granting he as I from begging peace. All hope excluded thus, behold, instead of us outcast exiled his new delight, mankind created and for him this world. So farewell hope, and with hope farewell fear, farewell remorse, all good to me is lost. Evil be thou my good, be thee at least divided empire with heaven's king I hold by thee, and more than half perhaps will reign as man ere long in this new world shall know. And there we're going to end it at the end of Satan's hardening speech. I view this speech, I think Milton is using this speech in the same way that God speaks of Pharaoh, that Pharaoh during the Exodus had a choice at first, but God said that Pharaoh hardens his heart, and then God hardens him further still in his own resolve, strengthens him in his own resolve, and this is Satan giving himself over to beyond repair in Milton's